what I do all the time is I will check with my internal GPS to say, okay, sounds good to the outside world, but how does it feel to me? And that feeling position, if I don't feel happy, if I don't feel energized, if I don't feel excited, but if instead I feel heavy, like I'm going to be taking on work that's going to feel like a heavy load and not give me joy, then I am busy running after the human race instead of following my happiness quotient or my happiness guide from the inside.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I'm so excited to bring you our special guest today, Maura Sweeney. But before I introduce you to her, I have a little bit of a quote for you. Jacqueline Smith said, "It's not about me, it's about my family. You don't answer questions for you, but for us. You learn to live beyond yourself." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Maura, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
I am.
Thanks for coming on the show, Maura. Maura Sweeney is an author, a podcaster, an international speaker and Huffington Post blogger. Maura Sweeney uplifts and engages with a living happy inside out mantra. A frequent media guest and popular lecturer on influence, leadership and personal branding, Maura is a next-gen thought leader, inspiring others to become their happiest and most authentic self. Turning her vocation into an entrepreneurial business, she's just released her first e-course entitled Foundations of Happiness. Maura, can you provide us with some more insights into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Sure. You know, the best way to describe me is I am involved in a vocational career. It's a lifestyle career. When I was a little girl, I actually made a decision that I was going to grow up into a happy adult. So when most people were thinking about becoming a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a teacher, I literally made a choice as a young person to grow up to be happy. And you think, what the heck is happy? Like, you can't work happy. Well, after having a career with a corporate background and also having a company along with my husband, and even serving as a homeschooling mom to my daughter, I decided at midlife that I was going to take all of my previous experience, all of my travels, which now are well over 50 countries, and all of my thoughts, and start curating and cultivating them into a body of thought so that I could help empower other people to live happy lives from the inside out. And I use living happy inside out as my mantra. So that's where you could find me in books, in blogs, in over 200 videos, in podcasts, and also as a public speaker, and most recently as creator of a Foundations of Happiness e-course. And it's all designed to help empower other people to really live an integrated life where what they do and who they are all spring from within rather than trying to conform to everything society tells them they should do without.
Okay, thank you.
Or on the outside.
Yeah. So, Maura, you do a lot of things there. So you make money from out of the things that you've talked about there. Presumably you make money out of your books and you make money out of your course. Am I right there? Is there other ways you make money?
Well, I'm glad you bring this up. When I said to you this is a vocational career, most entrepreneurs start with this question. They look at a dollar sign, or in your case, maybe a euro sign or a pound sign, and they'll say, how do I get this? How do I design a business so that I can get the money? Mm-hmm. In my case, I wanted, number one, influence. I wanted to take my ideas and get them to as many people as possible. So, Neil, at the beginning, every single thing I did was free. Yeah. That's where you could read my blogs, you could watch my videos, listen to my podcast. But from that point forward, I was able to begin building a business from it. So I have various sponsors that work with me on my website. I have embedded links where if people are reading some of my things and they find some of the sponsors that have partnered with me, click on a link and buy, I will get a commission. But over and above that, I have since become a public speaker and a paid-for public speaker where I speak here in the country, United States, as well as overseas. And so this brings me to a completely different environment. And then, of course, for this new Foundations of Happiness e-course. So what I did, I worked backwards. I started out with an idea that I wanted to give traction to. And then once the traction developed, I was in a position to begin charging.
Mm-hmm. So it's a bit like the Zig Ziglar mantra, isn't it? Of give people what they want and you'll get what you want, almost.
I would say so, yes. But you see how it's an opposite paradigm. Yeah. It takes some time, but I feel like I've laid a tremendous foundation.
Mm. And what do you enjoy most about what you do? And obviously you're happy all the time now, so...
You know what I am, and it's been a long time coming. I really like everything I do. I am a creative personality, which means that I get to use my artwork, which seems maybe to some people like, well, what is that? But some of the things that I put together, I can incorporate into my writings. I can take any idea that I have and I could throw it into a video, write a blog, or put out a podcast. I love all of it, and then I love getting out, public speaking, traveling, meeting people, and then being on shows like yours. I love being around people because I find it energizes me. And that's one of the reasons why I've chosen not to go the traditional coach one-on-one method.
And what is it that drives you, Maura?
What drives me is knowing that there's more to life and expecting to see it. I'm going to go back to something strange. When I graduated high school, or you would call it secondary school, I remember everybody saying in our senior year, oh, the best years are behind us. Now, could you imagine being 17 and hearing people say this? I'm like, are you kidding? They were thinking, oh, this was the highlight of our life, and after this, everything is on a decline. And I remember even back then thinking, are you kidding? I am just starting my life. And I think that is the thing that's always propelled me on. I felt like I was starting it after secondary school, starting anew after college, starting anew after I left law school, starting anew after I left my corporate job, starting anew after our daughter went away to college, and I could do what I'm doing today. So for me, I'm always looking for the more in life, and then obviously inspiring others to do the same.
And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
I would say 3 ways. I socialize because I really like to be around people. I exercise, which I find is really, really good for me. I put so much mental attention into what I do that I really need to get out and exercise, and I do all kinds of exercise. And the other is just to get outdoors. Fortunately, we live in Florida where it's really nice weather, and to be out to go for a walk, get on my bicycle, it's just really good for me.
And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
I'm a reader, and I don't always read what everybody else reads. And I've studied and read the books on, the biggies from the Industrial Revolution and how did they literally change the world and what were the elements that went into it. So I've read them, and I've read several, obviously, beyond that point, but I don't think I have one in particular, unless I mention to you my husband, Jim. Okay. Living with this man, I've watched him start several companies, and he has many skills that I don't. He sees way outside the box. He's awesome when it comes to distribution models. And so as much as I have read about a lot of other people, I happen to live with one that's a great role model for me.
That's handy, isn't it?
It is. It's very helpful because with me, I am not really good when it comes to distribution models. So being with him and having him as my business partner really, really helps me.
Maura, can we go back to the time before you were an entrepreneur? And can you talk about the difficulties you had to overcome when you started your business?
Yes. My background was I was always doing what I was told. That was the way I was brought up. That was the way I went to school. That was why I ended up in law school and then ended up leaving because it wasn't my happy place. But for about a decade, I worked at 2 corporations. And in the corporate environment, everybody talks about the box or in the cubicle. I was in management where I would manage one or sometimes several branches, but I was part of a big conglomerate. So what that meant for me is that I worked within the box. And stepping out into entrepreneurship, I had to get out of the mental boxes I was in, meaning I had to take an idea that I had and turn it to reality, turn it into a business. So I had to think way outside the lines. I had to realize the box wasn't there. And here's another thing, for anybody who has had a background working in a corporate environment, they know that every time there's some specialty work that needs to be done, you call somebody within the corporation. It's in-house expertise. But as an entrepreneur, I've learned I have to do it myself. I have to learn to do it myself. And if those 2 things don't work, then I pay for it. So those were some of the things that I had to do. I had to change my mindset to think that there are no boxes and I could just create my own space wherever I chose to take it. And then secondly, I really had to learn to be kind of like how to learn how to have my own tool chest rather than just being expert in one area.
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
Yes. I would say a couple. I had personal hesitations. What I do right now requires my face, my name, and my personality to be on it. My website is Maura for you because I'm always for you, and it's my name, my ideas. But in the past, even when I was in corporate management, I would develop people, but I would always be the person behind the scenes, in a sense, behind the curtain as I trained, promoted, developed, etc. In starting what I do, I actually started with YouTube videos, and I would get to be the face on the video with my own name, with my own reflective questions, with my own so-called show. And I'll tell you, that was a tough thing. It was tough, but I will share something else. What I do is I'm a thought leader. And I somehow knew as a young person that whatever I was going to do, I was not yet ready for. So that meant, I spent time in business. I spent time in public advocacy. I spent time helping my husband develop a business. So I had to really wait until my age was right, that I had enough experience, that I had developed sufficient confidence. And then also, it was an era where I could get my message out, like now on social media. Otherwise I'd be looking for people to take me on as a writer or a syndicated columnist. This is a completely different era.
And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
Good question. The first is I did not ask enough of others. And this is what I mean. I am such a helper by nature, and I so love to see other people grow, and I love to see their dreams turn into realities, that I would always end up absorbing myself in someone else's business, in someone else's pursuit, in someone else's challenge or question. And I would help them. Now, meanwhile, I'm in business, but I would not call upon them to reciprocate and help me. And I had to learn to undo that behavior pattern a little bit by saying, I'm happy to help you here, but now in exchange, I would like for you to do the following. Write me a letter of recommendation, share me with your tribe group, etc. So that was something I needed to do. And the other thing is, I've referenced it a little bit before, is I tend to be inefficient. I do things so much in a personal fashion. I'm not like my husband, who's this guy who knows how to set up systems. So there's several things in my business that have slowed me down because I didn't set up systems to get the word out or to get what I do out to let's say, a larger population.
And I assume you're getting better at that now then, are you?
I am. Well, you know what happens? I think this might be the case with anybody. After a while, when you feel like your business is running you instead of you running your business, you say to yourself, I'm getting knocked out. I need to come up with a new plan. And so however we get there, we eventually get there.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur's way?
Well, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I always knew what my passion is. And I think this is good for an entrepreneur. Know your passion. Know your favorite subject or the thing that you're most curious about. And that was me. I always was studying, how do we live an authentic life? How do we get to this place where we feel free in our own right? The other things I did, and I continue to do, Neil, I read a lot. I study things like nonfiction icons, people that have really transformed culture, transformed business, transformed the way people lived. I read up on history. I mentioned earlier, I travel a lot, not as a typical American, but I travel so that I get into other people's culture and history. So you could see what I'm doing as an entrepreneur. I spent those early years cultivating my interests so that I would become somewhat expert in my own field. And then beyond that, because I write for a living, I used to do my own journaling. So here I was doing small things for myself as a journalist, personal journaling, which later grew into writing blogs and books, etc. I'm also a big question asker. I've done it all my life. I used all those questions about life and I turned them into podcasts and videos under my current name. And the other thing I did is I used to promote the work of other people. I loved helping people brand themselves. I'd write press releases. I would help position them. So even as I was working on all these elements, they helped me for where I am today. They were sort of like a proving ground or a breeding ground. But I would say for any entrepreneur who's on the way, and I think of this all the time, you have to find and connect with what you truly love and what you're passionate about. Because sometimes when you're starting a business, it's not like you're going to become an overnight success or an overnight millionaire. And unless you really connect with what you're doing and that you really have a natural love and appreciation for it, you're going to get burnt out, frustrated, and give up. And then you won't even have that same happiness factor in you that will buoy you along in the process.
Yeah, that's very true. Maura, can we talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit? Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
I always did think so. I used to study American businesses when I was growing up, and then later on when I was a corporate recruiter, I would have to learn the cultures of business. I think a lot of businesses have lost their cultures, and they became only focused on the bottom line. But I would tell you, for me, culture is everything. It's everything. Everything I do is designed around the culture of how do I help people to live an authentically happy life from the inside out. And so it's in the feel of everything I do, the vibe of everything I do, the imagery, the personality. I think that the culture within any business is one of those things that's not easily measured, but it carries a business along, something like goodwill would carry a business along. Do you use that word in the UK, goodwill?
Yes, we do, yeah.
Okay. It's the soft side of the business, but it's the very piece that helps others connect with it, identify with it, know whether or not they can relate to it. And it's also the piece of the business that builds in a lot of customer loyalty. So if people are not sure about their culture, then their customers are not sure about the business that they're running.
Mm-hmm. And it also creates staff loyalty as well, doesn't it?
True. Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Yeah, probably. And the thing is, I gave some thought to this many, many times before because I'm one of those people, I'd love to do everything right from the beginning. I'd love to visualize it and say, okay, that's the plan and I'm going to do it. But what I have learned is that in creating any new new brand, let's say, it's an evolutionary process. I'll tell you, when I mention things about being efficient, I'll give you one easy thing. I wish that I had learned how to use Twitter to elasticize my brand. You know, people say often that Twitter is a great way of finding new followers. That's something I'm still not good at. I feel like I do it by ones and twos. So that's something very practical that I could have learned, and I hope to become better at it. But here's another thing that maybe anybody starting on their entrepreneurial way may want to even consider. Like in my case, I had to decide, all right, I've got this business idea. I want to become a thought leader. But who is my demo? My whole thought is around happiness. So what does that mean? Is my demo... Is it university students who do listen to me? Is it leadership groups who want to know what's better? Yes, they follow me. Is it the metaphysical people that are really into self-help and spirituality? Yeah, to a certain degree. Is it midlife people who are looking for what's next in life? That was such a hard thing for me, Neil. As I was writing, I was being told I needed to niche down and then to super niche. And I'm thinking, I just don't know who my people group is. My people group were people that thought a certain way. And so what I found over time is that I am evolutionary. I'm a hybrid personality, and people find me now. So it's like, how do I answer your question when you say, how could I have cut it short? I really couldn't have. I just had to keep doing what I did, remaining faithful to what I did, and ultimately my messaging, my packaging, and my tribe started to connect with me. So some people may need to hear that today.
So the demographic of the people that you actually talk to now, who are they then?
You know, it's interesting. It is university students, millennials, and which is funny because I'm a midlife person, right? Mm-hmm. But there are so many of them that are at a juncture in their life. They're thinking, okay, so what do I do to create a career? How do I figure out where I want to go? Who am I? What's going to work for me? What's real for me and what's not real for me? So that's why I end up speaking at universities, graduate programs, but then there's also leadership groups, people that want to stay at the forefront of what they're doing. They want to be good leaders. And I speak a lot on leadership and influence. They follow me. And then there's some more, like the thoughtful people. These are the ones that they may be hard charging in business, but they're also reflective about life and their quality of life. And they could be at any age. They could be midlife people. They could be quite affluent, or they could be people that were doing really well and are affluent and realize they need more in life. And so all of them are part of my demo.
And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
In my case, totally. Everything I do by feel, by intuition, and by timing. And I'll give you just one crazy example. You would think typically in a business, you say, okay, I'm going to do my podcasts twice a week, every single week, or I'm going to launch my blogs out on Huffington Post twice a month or once a week. Well, it sounds good as a business model, but because everything I do is pretty much intuitive and comes from within me, I can't always do it. I have to do it when it's real for me. And this is a crazy thing. If you go on Huffington Post today, you will not see an article that I'll be putting on probably this week. Over the summer, I was traveling in the Northeast, traveling through many university campuses, and I hit the campus of Yale University, one of the Ivy Leaguers. And it's the home of the Skull and Bones Society. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Oh, well, you got to read up. But it's the place where the Bushes went to school, and a lot of our big leaders. And it's a secret society, so everybody's got a lot of speculation about it. I end up doing a video last summer on Yale's campus in front of this Skull and Bones Society, and I do not get the impetus or the idea to put together a blog for it until last week. And you think, why is it? It's because I do things by intuition. It's almost like the idea comes, then there's life to what I'm putting out, and the timing is right. And it's funny, we happen to be in an era where there's lots of disclosures. We've got the political scene really moving heavily here in America because of the presidential campaigns. And it was like all of a sudden I thought, oh, I got to pull out that video. There's a blog waiting. So yes, for me, gut feeling is a big part of what I do. Now, if you're selling vacuum cleaners, I'm sure it's different. But for me, I'm big into gut feelings.
Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And many say that the only constant in life is change. How do you try to keep up with change, Maura?
I'm going to tell you, like, I could say every day, but let's say, yeah, it is. It's several times a week. And I'll give you an example. Just tonight, after we hang up, I will be going into Tampa. We have a podcasters convention here. So on a routine basis, I will go to what we call e-marketing meetings. We've got a really active group around here. So not only am I learning things on the internet and taking courses and always finding out what's cutting edge and what's new technologically or like in the social media space, but I'm also going out and I'm meeting with people and I'm going to classes and I'm always learning what's new and then how can I employ that in advancing what it is that I'm doing.
And what is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a more obscure one. It's called Business Success Through Self-Knowledge. It's written by a William D. Anton. He is a PhD, retired professor, formerly director at University of South Florida. This man is now just directing his attention to leaders in business. And this book, Business Success Through Self-Knowledge, I love because what it does is it challenges the reader to see themselves through a bigger lens. It reflects a lot of my beliefs about how we can develop ourselves personally. And it helps us too, in this book, to occupy our bigger self. Most of us, when we're going through life, especially when we're little kids, we think the sky's the limit. We could do anything we want. But then through the course of time, whether it's schooling, family, wherever we are, we end up only in one small silo. We do what maybe we get attention from. And this book encourages me, as well as other readers, to step outside their comfort zones, to go outside those pre-existing silos and really give place to the bigger person they are. And that means skill-wise, self-development-wise, leadership-wise, etc.
Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Maura, what I'd like to do with you now is to fast forward a bit and speculate about the future a little bit. What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
The one thing I would do is I would give up the social media piece to someone else, but I probably wouldn't do it because of the possibility of having everything hacked. And so that's a tough part for me.
Mm-hmm. And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
I think I've reflected this several times in this interview, creating, cataloging, and implementing better systems so I can scale up versus doing a lot of my individual emails and responses. Yeah, I sound like the old school person, even though I'm perfectly new school, but that's an area I so need to rev up, and I'm in the process of doing it even now.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I would love it to read this. I don't know if we referenced earlier, I'm known as the ambassador of happiness. So I'd like a headline to read this. Ambassador makes living happy a noble and global profession.
That's a nice way of thinking about it. We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Maura, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
You know, it's funny. I just released a book on my favorite quotes, but out of all the quotes, I'm going to give you my own quote. You ready?
Come on.
If the human race knew where it was going, wouldn't we be there by now? Most people are busy running after people who don't even know the right way out to happiness or the right way to self-development or self-actualization. So I always think about the human race running after its own tail. And what I try to do is give people content to inspire them to switch that paradigm. Go on the inside, find out what they love, and pursue their interests from the inside out rather than running after the rest of the human race.
And how have you applied that?
I've done it my whole life. I've had various times in my life where I've said no to certain things that sound good, that other people may say, oh, that's a lot of that, you're going to make a lot of money, or why don't you take that promotion? Well, if those changes did not make me happy from within, I would decline them. And there were several like that. So what I do all the time is I will check with my internal GPS to say, okay, sounds good to the outside world, but how does it feel to me? And that feeling position, if I don't feel happy, if I don't feel energized, if I don't feel excited, but if instead I feel heavy, like I'm going to be taking on work that's going to feel like a heavy load and not give me joy, then I am busy running after the human race instead of following my happiness quotient or my happiness guide from the inside.
And do you have a favorite online resource that you can share with us?
I gave some thought to that. I do a lot of research, so where am I going to look? I'll look on Wikipedia. But the things that I love, because I mentioned before that I talk a lot about culture. So it could be the middle of the night. I'm in bed and I will be watching YouTube videos. I'll be listening to podcasts. And those are places that I can see one thing or hear something. And then all of a sudden I'm fed some other idea which brings me on. But it works well for me and the space in which I'm involved. So YouTube, podcasts, and Wikipedia.
Okay, thank you. And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
I referenced this earlier, and it's a good time to mention it again. Know what you love, know what your curiosities are, and know what you're passionate about. Build your business around that model, because once you have that as your foundation, Neil, it will be so much easier to advance yourself. There's nothing harder than working at something that you don't have an interest in. Because when you don't succeed initially at it, you'll feel like you're pulling a ton of bricks. But if you love what you're doing and you don't see immediate positive results in the business, you'll keep at it anyway. And did you know, just a little aside, when people are happy pursuing their activities, they can perform up to 50% better. So my goal or my advice to any entrepreneur, pursue something that will make you feel happy in its pursuit, and that will help you get further in what you're doing as an entrepreneur.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Maura's favourite resource or her favourite books, you can find the links on Maura's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Maura or Maura Sweeney in the search box. Maura, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Other than telling your listeners, I hope they find me. If they like Huffington Post, look up Maura Sweeney. If they're listeners on podcasts, I'm Maura Sweeney, Living Happy Inside Out. And otherwise, the easiest thing is just go to my website, Maura, u.com, mauraforyou.com. And I'd love for them to just stay tuned to everything I do and find my resources there.
Okay, Maura, thank you for that. Maura, it's been an honour having you on the show. You've really given us some great ideas of how your views on business, and you've inspired us all with what you've said. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Neil, thanks so much for having me. I've been thrilled to be here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.